If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip and join the fellowship.
Hi there, welcome to Can You Hear Me Now? A weekly live workshop where I get to blush with mistakes and errors and show you what it's like to build things and make things and do music without the aid of editing and all of those little tricks that we use. This week, I'm going to be using a piece of kit that I've literally had 10 minutes with, and I'm being egged on by Alan, our producer over there, who loves to see things going wrong. It's harks back to those good old days of Blue Peter, I reckon, he says, aging himself. This week, what I thought I'd do is look at the creation of drones, and this really taps into something I feel really strongly about. A question I'm often asked at seminars and stuff like that is what gear do you recommend I buy, or what sample library do you recommend I buy? And, you know, bearing in mind that most of us have access to computers these days, an audio interface, particularly if you're on Windows, is a bit of a much. But after that, what's the next thing to get? You know, do you pay for a DAW? I don't think that's necessary. There's loads of free stuff out there. I think that the best thing to get your hands on after you've got your basic computer set up, maybe a pair of speakers or some headphones, is a microphone. You don't need to spend a lot of money. An SM57 is around $100 US, and that is a microphone that you'll have for the rest of your life. And the reason I suggest this is not so that suddenly you're pond a mic, you know, singing your heart out and becoming a pop star. It's, I think, the best way of developing your own voice, your own sound, is to create your own sounds. And what I want to do, and we're going to split this into two parts today, what I want to do is show you how I make drones. I don't use any fancy plugins or anything like that. Basically, anything that you'll get with a DAW these days, you can make into your own pads, drones, synthesizer instruments that are based on samples from anything you can find around your house. Then we're going to do a little bit of an interlude to look at some Pianobook stuff, which we haven't done for a while. And then I'm going to just have a little go on this thing, which is taking that, making your own sound things a little bit a step further, but keeping it out of the box, not being so much kind of boxed up in your laptop, if you know what I mean. So if you have any questions about stuff that I'm up to today, there's an opportunity to join the chat, which is linked in the video description down below. Just basically a Google Meet. Come on board, hit mute on your microphone and stick your hand up if you've got any questions, suggestions, or indeed any answers for any of the questions that are raised. Workshop usually lasts just kind of under an hour, and then we'll have a chat for half an hour and talk about maybe what we can get up to next week during that live workshop. So what am I doing today? Something that I don't know why I've been... I do know why. I don't know why I'm obsessed with wine glasses, but I've always been fascinated by the noise they make and how you can take something as simple as that and turn it into something totally of your own. And what I enjoy about creating my own sounds, and it's been interesting this week making an album of a project that I've been working on for 4 years, is I'm in this kind of unique and very privileged situation of being able to listen to an album where every single sound or recording I've been involved in making. And I get a real pleasure from it. And I hope to demonstrate with just a simple wine glass sample that you can apply some of your compositional sensibilities into creating threads from which you weave your own tapestries of music. That idea that you can define the thread and how it changes thickness and colour and all of that kind of stuff. And in so doing, I don't know why it is, but there's something just more inspiring from a composer's point of view of creating your own sounds. I have found that it's the best way to deal with blank screen syndrome or you know, just starting a job. I find that compositions and ideas just fall out of my fingers when I just take a bit of time to do what I refer to as positive procrastination. Instead of sitting down and trying to write something, make a sound and see what comes out of that. So what I'm going to do is, here's one I made earlier, which is a bit of a Blue Peter thing. It's just a very pretty sounding. I think that this was actually a beaker that I grabbed. And what I like about the sound is that it has a slight oscillation to it, which I think is really interesting, and that's going to make the drone sound interesting. But the reason I picked an instrument or a sound like this is the difficulty is, obviously, it's like the opposite of a drone. It has a hard transient attack and then it decays relatively quickly. How do you turn something that decays into a drone? Well, there's a few little strategies that I employ. And if we just have a look here at the first thing I'm going to do is just make it as loud as humanly possible. So I'm going to take that file. Where is the file button? You see, this is when we won't. Okay. There we go. There's the file button. And I'm just going to normalize the whole thing, just so it's as loud as possible. Normalize. And what that should sound like is this. Okay, I'm not. The transient is really, really beautiful, but it's of no use to me. So got it as loud as possible. One of the easiest ways of extending a sound is to just stretch it out. Now, when you do this in Logic, it's not a particularly attractive stretch, but I kind of like leading into the digitalness if you are going to do these things in the box. And what I particularly like about it is when you stretch stuff, it adds all sorts of little kind of bits and bobs, which for me, I think make for very useful upper harmonics. And with upper harmonics, you generate a sound that is more audible, particularly on different kinds of speaker setups, i.e. phones, which is what so many people consume stuff on these days, guilty as charged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Option, and I'm going to just drag. And it's going to process that, and then it's going to sound weird. You can hear there's some stuff going up there. I'm going to do it again. Create even more. You could hear the uniformity in whatever algorithm it applies. And by stretching it again, I'm going to add in more kind of digital chaos. Right, next thing to do, it's a strategy that I use a lot, is what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate this actual file because I'm going to do some hard editing to it. So save, and then go back into this editor, and I'm going to reverse it. And then I think what I should do is this slightly more interesting stuff going on here and here. And I'm just going to do a nice chunky hefty crossfade. So if we just go down here, equal power, and let's do like 2000 milliseconds, even more, 5000 milliseconds. So suddenly we're doubling the exposure. Let's take that back even further, like that. There's some blums, which I really like. Okay, then what I'm going to do is duplicate the track, and I'm going to basically recreate what's going on up there, but I'm going to put a massive fade in at the beginning there so we don't feel a huge lump coming in. So maybe 9,000 milliseconds. It's difficult to see what that looks like. Maybe let me just bring the waveforms down so you can actually see what I'm actually doing. That looks a lot better. And then, in fact, we may as well just, and then a big fade out. Let's go 9,000 again. And what I'm going to do is just put those on a bit of a loop. The thing to do with drones is there's no limit these days of how long they can be. And, you know, when we're asked as media composers to do various different, you know, jobs, one of the real things that I hear all the time is this idea of the music being really important, doing so much, but they don't want it to do much musically, if you know what I mean. So having endless drones that you can just sit on, I think are really handy. So let's have a listen to that. The situation we're in now is basically what I've created is a bit of a fancy sine wave. So I want to jazz this up a bit. So what I'm going to do is add, and I did a vlog about this plugin that looks like it hasn't been updated for a long time in Logic because it's still bitmap. But if I go to, let's go, I'll tell you what actually I'm going to do is I'm first going to use my favorite plugin, which is the Apple Pitch. I'm going to stick that up like huge amount. And again, we're going to get all sorts of digital artifacts here. Let's mix. Two 400, and then let's give it a mix. Oh, come on. Nice. This plugin has crashed. Let's load it again. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So let's do this. 400. So it's a couple of octaves. And I think what you'd usually want to do with a pitch algorithm for something long and smooth is make it smooth. But I actually want to alter what you'd use actually for more of maybe something rhythmic. And this will add even more artifacts. Great. And then I'm going to add this second pitch plugin, which is, let me go pitch, vocal transformer. And I'm hoping that the octave is going to confuse it a little bit. Let me try something else on this one here. So let's go here. Let's go pitch. And I'm going to go back down again. This is pretty cool. And then some vocal transform on that. Let's hear those together. I think that's a little bit going to be a little bit low for me. I want to keep the pitch high, and there's a good reason for that. So let's go up again. Oh, jeepers. Yes, it really is. Let's just do another one for Lady Luck, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna maybe do something completely mental on this one. Let's go like a bit crusher. So let's go distortion, bit crusher. Just bring the old number of bits down. to do is just automate this up and down. So we get these little ugly little, I always call them, I used to work with a fantastic MC called MC Conrad, who's no longer with us, which is heartbreaking. And when working with the likes of LTJ Bookham, they'd create these amazing soundscapes, but you never wanted them too nice because you didn't want it to sound like the kind of music you hear at, I don't know, a spa. So there was always this insistence that we stuck a few pylons on the landscape. So this is what I'm doing here. These are going to poke out. Okay, next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of stuff on the stereo outputs to melt this all together. We've got those little kind of ins and outs. So I'm going to start with some delays that really delay for a long time. And this is just on the master bus. So this is going on everything. Finally, I'm going to add a whole bunch of reverb. And again, with any DAW that you get, you'll get some kind of reverb thing, and it doesn't need to be good. But I am actually going to go for a Fab Theta. I can't quite stretch to Chromaverb, which is just extraordinarily awful. I don't know what Apple were thinking. And I know there is just a heinous, call it black hole, and I think we probably want this almost at 100%. Let's have a listen. Do with this bit crusher one is I'm just going to take the old top end off. It's just a bit too fizzy for me. I think it's going to get annoying. I delete something by mistake. I think I did, didn't I? Do is just add another lane in here and just alter the channel EQ. So it was what was it? It was the low cut frequency. Was that it? No. Okay, what I'm going to do is just get rid of that. Just put another one on, which is just a single band EQ, and I'm going to put high cut and make that the thing here, EQ mode, frequency. And I'm just going to bring that little bit crush stuff out, just to kind of make it peak out a little bit. Little bites of sound, like a little tortoise with his own personal stereo listening to AC/DC popping out of the ocean. Okay, sounds good to me. So what I'm going to do now is just bake it and add it to the project. And let's call it Workshop Drone. Okay, and just for the sake of being quick and easy, I'd usually probably add this to Contact so that I could basically like do some stuff with filters and stuff like that. But I'm just going to whack it in the Logic sampler. So let's go track, new software instrument track, sampler. Let's open the mapping window. And I'm hoping this will just, I'll be able to drag this straight out of the audio pool. Okay, Workshop Drone. Yeah, look at that. Goodness knows what key I was playing in there. Maybe just a little bit higher. And you'll see why now I wanted to keep the pitch of the drone high, not low. It's very easy to create incredibly muddy sounding drones, but what I'm hoping is that we will be able to play this. Is that going to come out? Yeah, let me just cut into the sample a little bit. Oh, that's what we need to do. Now we need to get rid of all of that muck that I put on here. So we're just listening to the thing. I'm just going to cut into the sample and then control the attack. And then it's a bit long. Okay. And then let's have a listen to what this sounds like. That's not a very nice chord, Henson. Let's make this a bit longer. I'm going to go down an octave, and then you'll see why it's great to make drones higher up, because when you pull them down, you stretch out the waveforms and it creates a smoother, fatter sounding sine wave. So let me just like go down 2 octaves and go down to a low E. Are you coming anytime soon? Go down an octave again. Or a low C. And higher up. Those little bites. Really high up. I'm playing some really bad notes. I think it's because there's another note in there. Hold it down. There's this oscillation and movement. And what you will find with synthesizer type sounds like this, which have just been built up from a series of, well, it's all from an organic base, a wine glass, and as a consequence there will be a harmonic complexity in there that you will find easier to mix into stuff like orchestral materials and samples than you would, say, some form of oscillator-based synthesizer, because the original waveform is complex and organic. I've not, these are just all house, well, with exceptions of the reverb, which is just something I'm familiar with. These are all house plugins, and it's just so lovely if you're really stuck, if you feel that, the ideas aren't coming, or you've got the fear about starting a project, creating a sound where there's a little bit of a story behind it. Maybe it's your favorite mixing bowl, or I don't know, anything, a recorder that you used to play when you were a kid. Just putting it into just a whole bunch of different plugins and just making sure you kind of smooth it out at the end. And if you don't, the thing you can always do with your sampler is employ subtractive synthesis techniques, which is just basically a harsh, horrible sounding waveform that you just filter out, and you'll get all of that interest and movement. I think the one mistake I made was at one of these steps, I added another note in, and I think that what you will find is that will limit your compositional abilities, because, as I demonstrated there, the minute you move onto a key that creates a chromaticism with that secondary note, it creates all sorts of dissonance and restricts you. So if I was to have another go at baking that, I would go back into that and find that pitch plugin and just make it so it was all unison. So that was just one thing that I probably shouldn't have done. So so that's how to make drones in the box, just with your basic bog standard bits and bobs. What we're going to do is we're going to go to VT, play a short film with some updates on Pianobook, or rather just some me showcasing a couple of really wonderful bits from Pianobook, including a rabbit hole, which I would really encourage you to go down. So over to you, Alan, off to VT, and then we're going to have a look at this little bad boy. It's been a while since we visited the wonderful world of Pianobook, and this is going to become a regular segment on the weekly workshop. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, pianobook.co.uk is a collective, a huge number of people who have come together to make and share sounds. And whilst I haven't been able to give it too much attention recently, it's still going strong, and we're making monthly updates to the whole experience. So there's lots of new exciting features for you to check out there. And it seems that many of you are still going there to find your unusual, quirky sounds with stories. That's the whole reason why it's called Pianobook. It's all about the stories that go with these instruments, these people, and these places. And indeed, we're still getting downloads of some 15,000 plus a month. Lots of really exciting stuff coming up with Pianobook. Now, Simon, who is one of the fantastic moderators on the Pianobook and helps sort out, well, basically, he's the one person who makes sure these things work before they go up to Pianobook, has said that we should possibly revisit something that we've already had a look at on the workshop, because I didn't really press the magic button. And so we're going to have a look at that. But let's start with our man, Lee, who has, by the sounds of things, been spending nights recording a village church clock tower bell recorded at 1 a.m, midnight, and drone, plus 2 synth bells, all 8 groups, mixable and mutable, 35 patches, including clean and processed. If you want to grab this and hear the whole story, we'll link it in the video description down below. But this is what it sounds like, the raw, unapologetic samples. It's just wonderful to think that that is actually a bell somewhere, and there's a real sense of place there. It is a bit noisy, but something I always remind people when using samples, particularly if you're a media composition, This stuff's going to sit under dialogue and exploding jeeps and room atmos and all of that kind of stuff. For me, it's the spirit that's important. But also, I noticed that Lee has made an all-in. So instead of going through all of these fantastic presets that have been created here, don't know what I did there, there's an all-in patch, which will give you a sense of the fun that Lee's been having with this church bell. Do you know, for me personally, I always make a mental log of these sounds. And I know sometimes if you've got a really, really rich orchestral arrangement and you just want that kind of top end, you just want to find that last bit of frequency that's left. Often I'll bung in a piccolo, or there's the really crotales, but this really has that. So if you're still wanting to give some kind of definition or hit a spot on a really massively fully rinsed orchestral arrangement, I think that I'll probably refer back to this. That's great. A world created from a local church bell at 1 o'clock in the morning. Next up is, and this is the one that we have visited before, but Simon did an experiment with this and has shown me what he did, and it really shows off the genius of this. Now, this has been built by Sam Eekhoff and our good friend Owen Bolig, and they write that it's a wide variety of Orff instruments presented dry and processed through a variety of pedals. A huge thank you to Owen, and what Sam goes in to talk about is this thing that was set up by Carl Orff. So when he was a kid, his elementary school had a lovely collection of Orff instruments. It seemed to me that we never got to play with them as much as I'd wanted, and they always held a special spot in my heart. I remembered them as sounding so magical and so delightful. Carl Orff wanted children to be able to play high-quality instruments that fit their size. The fact that bars can be removed from the instruments facilitates limited pitch sets, which are great for kids, and excellent for people like me with poor aim and little to no skill at playing percussion instruments. So let's have another look at this. And I recall they're beautifully recorded, but with all sorts of fantastic interactive stuff. So let's just pull these different things up. But apparently the trick here to stick on the arpeggiator and then go through the simply enormous selection of presets. I mean, look at that. Because it's not just different instruments, it's stuff that does loads of really interesting things. So, arpeggiator now activated. Arpeggiator, brilliant, but I mean, it sounds beautiful. Now let's try some other presets. these different things that are going. What just a wonderful, amazing, inspiring, brilliant tool. Congratulations to Sam and Owen on yet another triumph. And sorry I didn't represent it correctly last time. It really is a joy to use. So if you want to grab that, pianobook.co.uk is the place. These things, they're all free. And there's no catch to becoming a member. Just go and join and download stuff and enjoy it. But make sure you leave reviews. That helps keeping the engine of Pianobook running. And have a go maybe someday at sampling something yourself and sticking it up on Pianobook for your peers to enjoy and to hear your story. Right, back to the playroom. Absolutely stunning there. I don't know. Oh, God, I could have had a cough during the break, couldn't I? A little bit of a coffee here. I can't remember the name of that absolute twazzock who ran that AI company, saying no one really enjoys music. For me, don't want to dwell on it, but even the most chipper of folk at the moment are probably going, yeah, life's a bit, ugh. And it's stuff like what those guys are doing to help us escape into worlds of our creation without turning to drugs and alcohol, that I think is one of the very many reasons to get into making music, regardless of your background, your resources, your knowledge, theory, age, whatever. And you know, what I showed you earlier is just how you can make your own instruments in the box. There's another company that's great, making great machines to escape into and away from, you know, the screens and all of that kind of stuff. It takes you out of the box. And I'm seeing so many more boxes popping up. I think that there is a demand for people to get away from the thing that provides so much angst and stuff, our screens. This is made, I believe it's an S4, yes, I've just checked, made by Torso Electronics, which are based in Copenhagen, Denmark. Actually, we were playing a game earlier. What other cities sit on the same latitude as Edinburgh, not including Glasgow? Don't Google it. No idea. Copenhagen and Moscow, believe it or not, which is a surprise. Anyway, Copenhagen in Denmark, they've created this thing, which I think, for me, it feels a little bit teenage engineering-y, but without the complexity. It's really, really intuitive, and as a consequence, has instantaneous results that are interesting. Having said that, I've only been playing this for 10 minutes, so it's likely that things are going to go terribly wrong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sample something into this and show you how you can employ other methods to create drones and pads and stuff like that. And this, what's at the heart, this is a multi-effects unit that has certain performance elements. It has, it's got a couple of inputs, so you can sample into it, but it's also got a microphone. It's got a couple of outputs, and then it's also got MIDI in and out, but also CV in and out, which I think would be really interesting because there's some ways in which it modulates the sounds. So it's not just the way it affects the sounds, it's the way that you can modulate those effects that are, I think, part of one of its strengths. So what I'm going to do is we've got the speakers switched off. We found out earlier that there was a definite kind of feedback situation. What I haven't thought of is how I'm going to... I think that actually once I go into record, it will record until I stop it. So what I'm going to do is and then off we go. Okay, you can switch the speakers back on, Alan. So here we go. So basically this is your main library browser, and you've got different ways and you access that by this button. You've got projects and the configurations and all of this kind of stuff. All of these knobs basically change according to what's on screen. So I'm in basically the sound browser part of the interface at the moment. So I'm going to hit play. Okay. So I'm currently, I don't know why that's running at a completely different speed. Okay, so I'm just going to take off. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I was playing around with it, and tell you what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to clear parameters mods. There we go. That's us back to our. And let's get the speed down to the original speed. Here we go. So you can see here you've got these different parameters, and these refer to the stuff up here. So I want to cut my little intro there, and if we go, you'll see that I'm cutting the. We go. I'm just adjusting the tempo. That's not the right thing at all. Okay, so here we go. We go. Here's the start and the end. Off we go. Okay, just adjusting the length. Here we go. Okay, so basically we could go into reverse. We can change the speed. But also go into these different effects. There's 4 multi-effects here. First of which is granular. So mess around with these. Let's make it wet. So what granular effects do is they take little portions of the sound, chop them up, and have all sorts of fun with them. That was scientific, wasn't it? So currently you'll hear there's a very fixed pattern there, and that's because that's been modulated by this random pattern. What I can do is change that to a wave. Let's change the wetness there. I really don't know what I'm doing, but it's interesting. They're loving this behind the old... in the gallery there, over there, as they refer to it. Okay. Next up, we've got a filter, which again, I believe you can modulate in all different kind of ways. So it sweeps. GUI is just beautiful. So that's doing a little oscillation there. And then we've got Bit Crusher, which again you can modulate. So but then most importantly, un beaucoup de splosh. Something I did enjoy with the filter is there's various different scales that you can employ. So this is a minor scale. To be investigated further, but this is certainly something that I'm very interested. You saw me when I was working in the box creating these kind of artifacts and stuff through using dodgy old pitch plugins and stuff. What I'm thinking is interesting about this is not only how it can add in artifacts, but how you can modulate the addition of those artifacts. But what I'm particularly interested in is how those can be synchronized either via MIDI or a CV clock, so that I can create these long evolving pads that also lock to your host tempo as well. So this is definitely to be seen again, but I thought I'd just give it a little first look there. Absolutely beautiful piece of kit to use. The feel of the knobs and all of that stuff is nice. My only, I don't know, sadness is that you need to plug it in to get it working, because this to me is something that should have a battery pack so you can, I don't know, have fun in a rabbit hole on the bus without going on a bloody screen. So that's the workshop for today, creating your own pads and warped sounds and drones, and it's something that gives me a huge amount of pleasure. I would say as much pleasure as composing, because as I say, you're creating the thread in which you're going to weave your tapestry, and there's something really pleasurable about being part of that sonic contribution to your own compositions. I think possibly it's got something to do with the fact that as a piano player, really I don't get to really define the sound of whatever I'm playing, whether it be an electric piano or you know, I'm talking about acoustic instruments or you know, an upright or a grand, whereas a violinist or a saxophonist gets to color their sound, and that's what, you know, that's what I really appreciate about. I mean, you can always tell, I don't know, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Carlos Santana or I don't know, Louis Armstrong's trumpet playing. You can just tell it a mile off because they stamp their own nuanced kind of tone to it. And I think that's as close as us humble keyboard players get, is this idea of being able to create the threads with which you weave your tapestries. So if you'd like to throw some questions my way about what I've been up to in this workshop, or indeed come up with some suggestions yourself, if you use one of these or if you use some granular plugins, I'm all ears. In the Google Meet, linked in the video description below. Don't be shy. Come and join us. You will see regulars here. They're not invited. They're just bold, and they come back and they raise their hands and they have a chat. So, Alan, are we going to switch on the chat? Yeah. Here we go. Hi there. Good to see you all. How are you, Ellery?
I am very good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's always nice to go into I'd say go into the Zen zone of making your own sounds. It's not so much of a Zen zone when you've got cameras on and you're going live to YouTube. But have you made your own sounds using these kind of techniques?
No, was this feedback. This was very useful to see how to do it, and I'm going to listen back or get the transcript, make a step-by-step guide, because there's loads of things that I want to do. So I've got access to, I've got access to the sounds of different gunshots, which I think I've mentioned before, but I've decided now I'm going to actually go and then label them all. So that's for use in movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So if they want a specific type of caliber, or the sounds of, when you're racking back a rifle, for example. So I want to sample all of that. And then I want to sample, I've got several, not several, it's only 3 different kinds of singing bowls. And those have got a lovely, lovely, lovely deep sound, so it's sort of like the gong. Yeah. Almost, you can sort of replicate that, but that could be a really lovely drone sound, I think. So I'm so excited, and I've got a good microphone now, so I've got no excuse. Really, really excited.
Brilliant stuff. Well, it's good to see you, Ellery. And it's great to Philip's shirt turned up. I'll come to you in a minute, mate. Charles, how are you? We cannot hear you. Your mic's not on, Charles. I'd love to do a compilation of all of the composers' different faces as they're struggling with their patch bays.
Should be working now.
There you go. The dulcet tones are back.
I'm glad you're doing this, because I have gone through, I don't even know how many hard disks I have of sessions I've gotten all the way back to Nashville, some of which have the stems, a lot of the LA things and whatnot. So I've got all kinds of instrumentation, the dreaded saxophones in the sessions, but a lot of the drums, piano, my singers that I hired, blah, 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 blah. And so what I've been doing is experimenting with the very thing you're talking about today. As a matter of fact, Ellery knows a little bit about this, because I sent her a copy of the challenge that I'm thinking about. I don't know if I'll submit it or not, but I experimented with your video, and Ellery, some of that stuff you heard on there is actually from those LA sessions. Remember? So, but anyway, I'm really glad you did this, because it gives me the incentive to go take a deeper dive into some of those stems, because I don't even know how many tracks I've got, hundreds. Yeah, maybe 1,000. I have no idea. So I've got of course, I'm an old man, but I've got a lifetime's worth, whatever my lifetime is going to be, of these tracks. And I think that's great. The other thing is, I saw something the other day. It's just, I'm going to pose a question and then throw it out on the table. I saw something the other day on YouTube. It was Stevie Wonder. It was a guy talking about Stevie Wonder working with the great guitar player, Jimi Hendrix. And apparently they were in Detroit, and Hendrix was doing this session, and Wonder was like 18 or something like that. And he told Hendrix, he said, stop. And so Hendrix stopped. What's going on? And Wonder went over and he said, close your eyes when you're playing and listen. And Hendrix was having trouble because he was so used to looking at his fretboard and blah, 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 blah. And basically, Wonder was saying, you're playing from your head. I want you to learn how to play from your heart. Yeah. I thought that's a very interesting concept. So that session went on, and Gordy suggested the two of them go off and work together, but that's not really the point. So after that, I thought, well, maybe I need to listen differently. So I sat down at my piano and I was just playing single notes. It didn't make any difference where it was on the keyboard. And it just had a different feeling of sort of a more organic sense of it, instead of saying, okay, I can see my keyboard. I know when I'm playing a G or an A flat or what. Yeah. But the whole concept shifted. So I'm going to start experimenting with that. And I'm just suggesting that might be an interesting way of, instead of looking like when you were working with today, we were all looking at the waveforms and what you were doing. I thought, okay, I'm going to close my eyes. So when I closed my eyes while you were working, it was an entirely different experiment.
Yeah.
I mean, experience.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, that's just an idea that might be an additional approach to what you're doing.
Thank you.
That's it in a nutshell.
Well, it's something that I've mentioned, I think, on a vlog, but we do all the sampling not into computers. We do them into these things. And I mean, the reason for doing it is because they're portable, and it just basically means that we have consistency between our recordings. They've got really ultra low noise floors and great mic pre's. But one of the benefits that we have realised is that we're listening to stuff better. And you are certainly, I think there's a lot of kind of placebo effect that happens with looking at waveforms. You perceive things differently, and by learning to listen, I think is really interesting. I think I may have mentioned this before, but I brought my kids in and got a mixing desk here, and I just showed that they were going like, how do you know how to use all of these different knobs? And you go, well, there's lots of repetition. This mixing desk, this is something we're all familiar with. You know, each channel, it's the same series of knobs. So I went through each knob and I said, what does this do? And they said, oh, it sounds brighter. This sounds darker. But what was really interesting is when I did the pan knob, they couldn't hear any difference in what I was doing. Absolutely none at all. And I kept on going, just what has changed? What has changed? And it was just very interesting because my son went, well, nothing's changed. It's just over there now. And it was this idea of perception of what change was really interesting to the kind of ear training that we take for granted. Lovely to see you, Philip. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Slightly jet lagged, but I'm really good, thank you. Really, that was brilliant. What you did at the beginning was so good, mate. And it follows on as well. I think it was the workshop last week, the Goodbye to Logic thing. But where you're showing actually how some of the basic things like the vocoder and the built-in pitch thing are actually so effective. It's great. I had a few thoughts actually. Just that since the sort of native instrument situation, and from watching you play with it, I've gone back into the EXS. So I have to call it that, sampler.
Yeah, no, we're not calling it sampler. They don't own that word.
And I've just found it. I just have this habit now. Anytime I'm in a recording studio or in a recording session, just at the end of the session, if there's a decent piano, I can't play piano, but go and sit and sample the instrument that's in there. But also to your point of actually not being fully in the box. I think I sent you a photo the other day, actually, of
yes.
Yeah. So I cannot recommend enough having one of these in your bag. I just think it's so easy. This is just one of the Zoom ones. It's the Studio H5 thing. There's an H6 now, but it's such a good sound, and it's so nice getting away from the screen, like you said. And there's even a remote that works on your phone with it if you buy the little Bluetooth dongle thing. And the reason I sent you that photo, Christian, was I found myself on a very beautiful beach in Santa Barbara, and there was nobody there but lots of brown penguins who were dive bombing, and the noise was just gorgeous. I thought, I'm just going to see if I can get a drone out of this, because I think I'd seen the flag about this workshop. So the great thing about these is they record in 32 sort of floating point, whatever it's called. I don't know what I'm doing here, but which obviously means you can't, it's very hard to make it distort, and it's very hard to, even for me, to cock it up. But the great thing is I found then if you put it into something like Pull Stretch, which if anyone hasn't used it, is such a good piece of tech for making drones. It's gorgeous. It's free. You can even then, it's so temperamental, but you can dial it in to be a specific number of harmonics and eventually get it down to the basic, what's the note of the C? It happens to be a B flat. There you go. And it's just, I just thought that became a really nice way to trigger a new, I was stuck. I thought I'll trigger a new piece just by listening. And, there's that thing of the music's all there. You just have to remove everything
Absolutely.
that isn't the music. Or remove all of that white noise until you get to one note. It's like, there's a nice drone, and I didn't have to write it myself. It's got the odd seagull in it, but
No, that's brilliant. Oh, it's a couple of points there. So Paul Stretch was a bloke called Paul, and he got his friend to write this algorithm that theoretically can stretch a single hit of a wine glass so it is 1 millennia long.
Yeah.
And what I find with Paul Stretch is the more complex what you put into it. So I don't know, if you stick a bit of ragtime into it where there's lots of notes, the more incredibly granular and beautiful it is. Yeah. And I've made a lot of drones from that stuff. And am I right in saying that, is it Audacity that put it in, that they've actually put Paul Stretch into the DAW? If anyone's near the internet can find out, Paul Stretch, it's in a DAW. It's in one of the DAWs. So you don't just have to download that weird MS-DOS looking thing. It's Audacity, is it? Thank you. And then just another point I wanted to pick up on, Philip, is I don't know if it's a coincidence, but black holes are B-flat.
Exactly. It's the sound of the universe, supposedly. Yeah. So 57 octaves below what we can perceive, apparently, but who's counting? But yeah, incredible. And I thought that was interesting. I probably force engineered it, but there you go. Oh, just one other tip, actually, by the way. And if anyone's used to using Ableton, I just think it's very good if you're like me, you're cat-handed user of it, where you it surprises and delights you because you've no idea what you're doing. Hello, that's me. Happy accidents, but the Bob Ross approach of composition, that's definitely my MO. But again, not being able to play the piano, but I found if you record a fast, to your point, a fast, complex kind of ostinato pattern on a nice piano, an upright piano, whatever, stick it into Ableton, flip it round, make sure the formants sound okay, drop it down 2 octaves and slow it down as much as you can. It sounds like a bass clarinet ensemble. It is just unbelievable because it does this choir thing. And if the reversing of the sound isn't too fast, if it's slow enough, it just sounds like it's long crescendos and swells. You don't have that kind of sucking sound that you get when you normally reverse the piano, especially you put a little bit of a convolution of reverb on the end. It's honestly, it's a really nice. If you've got, just things sitting on your hard drive and think, what would that sound like? It's, again, a really good kind of provocation for starting a track when you're stuck and on a deadline. Provocation,
that's a great word. Philip, are you coming to Britain soon, or did I miss you?
I'm in Britain now. I was meant to text you. I'm here for 9 days, and then I'm coming back. So,
I'll come and see you. Philip and I have been talking about possibly doing some kind of cello sampling library. Maybe we could talk to the masses gathered here in future weeks about what we can do together. I think that could be fun.
I would love that. Absolutely. Yes, please.
Brilliant. Yeah. Jay, how are you, sir?
I came running, so I am a little lost in the conversation. But good. The piano project is gonna be happening soon. It's very out of tune, so I think you're gonna be excited about that.
That's gonna be great.
I do have questions because I've been trying to figure out how to mic that, and I have a set of little pencil mics on the top right now, and that's gonna be working fine. But I was wondering, what if I just stick a microphone inside of it? I don't know if it's gonna be bad.
I don't think it would be great. I think that the main misunderstanding with pianos is that it's a piece of wood that's making the sound that's in there, and it's a piece of wood that's held in a really taut arc at a tension of, I think, about a ton. It's definitely it's the same pressure as an elephant, basically, and I think that a lot of people like put microphones against the strings thinking they're going to get a better sound. It's not the strings that are making the noise. It's the piece of wood, and it's very broad. What you'll get by putting the mics really close into the piano is a lot of the mechanics, which is maybe what you're after, which can, really give it its character. And if you're going to do that, something I would really recommend is recording multiple round robins of release triggers for each note, because you will find when you close mic it, it produces a very thuddy transient, a massive sine wave. So it doesn't really have much character, but what will really give your sample character is what the notes sound like when you release them. And I was like, the first time I did that, like on my Schimmel, I was amazed at how it came to life with the release triggers. So that's what I would recommend with that. Yeah,
it's noisy right now probably because it's old. So there's a lot of that going on. Noted. I'll test some things. In other news, I'm asking about that. I just saw your video this morning on your move out of Logic and everything.
Yeah.
I'm asking the Reaper people about the video thing, because I found it funny that out of the 10 things you mentioned in last Sunday's video, 5 of those I have in my MIDI keyboard, like programmed into it to do exactly that. I don't know about the video on Reaper. I've been looking into it since this morning. No clue, but if I find out how to do it, if that's a thing, I will pass along that information, because I don't know if you've checked that you can actually like bind your own keyboard shortcuts to actions and stuff.
Yeah.
So
there's
you can
lots of
set it up.
Hundreds of scripts and stuff like that, which
There's many things.
Yeah, which I'm interested in. Let's move along to Ethan. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Great.
Everyone else all right, guys? Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm working on album production in 44.1, and I'm sampling some of me late father's items. He used to be a collector, antiques collector. Already done a ranch phone. I know he's got an anvil in my brother's cupboard, and you said something about an anvil last week. But my question I really want to ask is, I've been struggling with this upsampling, downsampling because I've never worked in 96K. Is it okay for me to continue sampling in 44.1 and still retain that quality?
Yeah, all of Hans Zimmer's all of Hans Zimmer's libraries and samples that he made privately are 44.1, 16-bit.
Oh, right, cool. 16-bit, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, why not 24?
Because basically, when he started making them, it wasn't viable. It would take up too much hard disk space. Yeah. So it's absolutely fine. The only time I'd really recommend going into 96K is if you're planning to really pitch the samples down hugely. You really will hear it. If you're going, like if you're recording something at middle C, at C0, you're going to hear the little bits at the top there. And it's very interesting. I've been studying digital recording, and all digital recording actually has a low pass filter on. And what you will find in certain programs for upsampling and downsampling is that you will be able to fiddle with that low pass filter, so that if you do pitch things down, you don't get so much coarseness in the top end of the little bits that you can hear. But you'll be fine at 44.1 unless you're planning to do, I don't know, like one of these pitched down 3 octaves. You're going to hear that if it's at 44.1 or 48. No real difference between the two, to be honest. So,
cool, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure. I wanted to bring something up today because I thought it was really interesting, and it's not really something that I have. I do have an opinion on it, but I just think it's really interesting. I don't know if you see that Ben Affleck has formed a new film production company that is AI based. And he's joined forces with Netflix. It was very interesting. I saw some of you react to that. But I think he's a little bit probably more intelligent than I'd give him credit. He's basically talking about how AI can help with low-budget independent films, namely the things that really, really scupper films, like when something is shot that is bad continuity, or there's a prop out of place, this, that, and the other. So it's basically a production company aimed at making sure that storytelling and filming and actors is done live, but by investigating different post-production things that AI can do to help small independent filmmakers. And I think that this is, for me, just seeing how people are working with AI, I think that the tech bros, as they've become to be known, have these highfalutin ideas about how composition will be taken over by AI and this, that, and the other. Whereas actually, and we have so much. Well, I'm old enough to have so much experience of this. What it'll do is what music tech always does. Just basically, it'll mean that more is expected of us for less money. But it doesn't mean we're going to be out of the picture. And I think it's just really interesting to see that Ben Affleck has seen the possibilities, which is, stuff like rotoscoping and all of that kind of stuff being done by AI takes a lot of labor out of the process of storytelling, but doesn't take the humanity out of it. So it's something to check out. And I think that possibly he has a progressive way of approaching AI as opposed to just like putting his two crosses like that, which is what I'm seeing a lot of people doing. And I think you're fighting against the tide with that. Back to you, Ethan.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that when you mentioned about that, so I'm working on AI stuff myself at the minute. I'm 21:9 aspect ratio. I'll let you know the model name. I can't release what I'm using, but the model is Cinema Studio. And in Cinema Studio, they'll probably be using this for the film side of things. It's in that you can literally just grab an image of a prop, a separate image, and then get the AI machine to learn that through your prompt, so they can literally add props in there, take props out by simply just saying delete, but make sure there's no deformation, that sort of thing. I've been working on it since November myself, and I'm surprised myself. It's really, really going into gear. It's madness.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Ethan. Philip, I don't know if you had any thoughts on, I don't know if you heard about the Ben Affleck thing.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I'm curious to see how people are using AI. I think I agree with you that, it'll probably make people expect for us to be even more efficient. I tend to use it for cue sheets, actually. And for, I don't know if you're doing production music, for instance, when you have to do kind of all the different versioning. I've just been using it this week for that, where you have to do, so if anyone's not familiar with that, when you write production music, you have to do your main mix, and then maybe a strings mix or a drone mix or whatever, and then cut down 60, 30, 15, stings, all of that kind of stuff, which is fine. But when it comes to the housekeeping of it, where you then have to kind of catalog all of those, write a description, BPM, key, all that kind of stuff, I found now if I keep that in a spreadsheet and then actually literally take a screen grab of that, throw it into something like Claude and say, can you make a separate Word document for each of these? Oh, and also list all of the mixes in order, and here are my notes. Can you make it sound slightly more intelligent, as if it was written in the style of New Yorker, but where a film editor might be interested in it? And actually, that's very useful, because it's such a ball ache that I have no adrenaline doing it, so I don't want to do it. But that's obviously, you have to do that. And then also for making like a running cue sheet, and I know you do this, Christian, as well, when you're working, especially at a distance with a production team, like having something where it's maybe like a Google document where that everything that's in there is sort of locked and loaded and frame accurate, because you've got a machine checking it up for you. That I find very useful. As far as the sort of creative side of it, I mean, it's a bit like when a Linn drum machine came along. And I know that's a bad comparison, but that created, we wouldn't have New Order. Without that, we wouldn't have all of these other things. So I'm trying to look for the silver lining. I think there's a level of music that it might replace, and maybe we shouldn't be spending our time writing wallpaper music if that's the case. God, that sounds snobby, but you know what I mean? It's like
guilty as charged.
Well, ditto. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't know. And I'm interested to, I don't know if your kids are like this as well. My kids have no interest in going and watching an Avatar in concert, maybe unless it's Gorillaz, but even they're playing live now, which I think is very telling. You know.
Yeah. My daughter's at Kesha as we speak in Edinburgh.
Great.
No, in Glasgow rather. So I'm going to go and pick her up afterwards.
And it's not going to replace Boomtown anytime soon, is what my kids tell me.
No,
whatever that is.
Yeah, I think that I think you're absolutely right. I think that it will threaten certain areas. I know that we've been over this lots of times, but it's just very interesting to see someone, an actor, a director, a film producer, coming out and going, actually, this could be used as a thing for good. You know, you're younger than me, Philip, I think, but there was a point in the late 1980s where like ready meals became the thing. Yeah. And it was like, well, no one's going to cook anymore. Everyone's just going to eat ready meals. And they have a convenience to them, slinging something in the microwave, but we're not eating those every night.
But that's always my go-to, is I haven't yet found a restaurant where I'd want a machine to cook my meal rather than someone with the story and the ingredient, and knowing where the ingredients came from. If you go to being a nerd, I've been, but if you go to the Computer History Museum in Silicon Valley, it's well worth a visit, because it's sort of a museum of Jurassic technology. It's all of the things that didn't work. And one of the main things in there, I think, is the Honeywell kitchen computer, which is a device for cooking all of it looks beautiful. It's this sort of Formica red mold. You'd love it. I mean, the form factor is amazing. But everyone thought then that was the future of cooking. We would not have to cook our own food. And in fact, the early Disneyland, you know, the Home of Tomorrow, says exactly that. They got it wrong 60 years ago, and I think we're still getting that wrong. And I think the same goes for concerts. So yeah, I'm a Pollyanna in that regard. I don't think you're going to miss, you know, the roar of the grease paint and the smell of the crowd. I think that's always going to be there. I genuinely do.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Be interesting to hear if anyone. Oh, Adam, how are you doing?
I'm very good. Just to give you I've not touched this all week because you said before there was some tech bro, I can't remember who it was, who said nobody enjoys making music, so having AI do it is what is going to happen in the future. Well, let me tell you, all I've done this week is program softwares, and I've not touched a keyboard. I've just been using this. I've been vibe coding all weekend. So the amount of programming I've done this week, I think it's the other way around. I think nobody wants the program. Nobody wants to look for syntax errors. And this is what everyone's going to want to do. And now all the software that we're worried about, you can make it yourself in a few minutes. You can make whatever you want. It's insane. So all the big software companies have got to be terrified, because literally, if you've got an idea, you can just start having a conversation with Claude Code. Before you know it, there you go. You've got whatever it is that you wanted in the first place. So that's what I've been doing. And unfortunately, I've not been practicing. And Mandy's been sending me lessons, and I've not had time to practice.
Adam, can you walk us through what the process is? Because I've never looked at Claude. I mean, I've heard of it, but what you start with and what you end up with, how does it work?
So how can I describe Claude? So if you're used to using ChatGPT, it's not that. You can use it like that, but then it's like using half a scale. You're really limiting what it can do. So basically, you can run it in the software that you make your software, and then get it to then make software. So it's like it writes its own software. So if that makes any sense, rather than just dragging things into it and expecting it to figure out what you put into it, you basically put that into the software that writes software. And then from that point, the world is your oyster.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Kind of.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You'd need to give me longer to think about that.
No,
one
that's fine. No, and maybe something I should. I mean, I had to work over the weekend doing some editing of samples. That literally, the only way of describing it is it didn't cook my brain; it sous vide'd it in just So my brain developed like a horrible kind of soapy skin around it, like slightly, just ever so slightly poached.
Warm water and frogs.
Exactly. And I just was like, I definitely feel this is something that AI could be doing and letting me. Yeah. So
one thing
I think I should look into it.
I want to say, sorry. One thing I want to say is like if you like a calculator. I mean, everyone in my generation was given a calculator, a little Casio or a Sharp. I remember actually Mr. Sharp came from Japan and was handing these around Manchester. You lose the ability to do something once you're given a tool that good. And if you use AI to do these tasks, you are going to lose these abilities. Whereas if you keep hold of that and you only use AI to teach you things, because ultimately you've got a pretty good expert that can help you learn and do anything you want. But if you hand over the task to that, you are going to lose that ability to do those things. But yeah, I think as long as you don't have the lazy mindset and you do pass on the crappy jobs that you don't want to do to AI, but as long as you have the inquisitive, interested, I want to learn how to do that and I want to learn through AI because I'm too frightened to speak to a person who's going to give me, whereas AI won't do that. It'll just go, well, yeah, you can do that. And nice, you tried that. That doesn't really work, but there you go. You could do. So it's a great teacher. And as long as you have that mindset, I think it's what Ben Affleck's doing makes sense because there are loads of people out there that want to make these films. I've got friends who want to be writers and yeah, just learn these skills now with AI and get AI to teach you these skills. You can make some amazing content.
Yeah, Adam, that's really sage advice and I really appreciate it. And I totally know what you mean. I think I was the first generation of kids who were handed a calculator when we were 10 years old. And as a consequence, I am totally enumerate. I cannot do any sums in my head whatsoever. Jay, I'll come to you briefly because I've got to wrap up.
I was just going to point out something similar to what Adam was saying, that, you know, I don't know. I've been trying to avoid the AI conversation because I don't want it. I don't want it. But I will give it that point that it's fairly good for research, like not to analyze the read, but to gather it and gather information, even though it hallucinates things all the time. And the thing with music that I've been arguing with people about is all the legal issues that you will have, because as of now, the only thing I've been following regarding AI music is all the suing that's been happening to the companies, and they're backtracking of, can you use this, can you not use it, can you even download it? But I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I decided that I want to relearn how to write music on paper.
Yeah,
because I'm the higher thing.
Yeah, I think, well, as you know, as John Lennon said, if you want some inspiration, pick up an instrument you can't play. And I think that learning to write and express yourself in different ways is a really good idea. A really good idea of discovering and plumbing new seams of inspiration that are probably inside you. So, so a whole bunch of really, really brilliant contributions this evening, and thank you all so much. I'll leave you with this one fun AI thing I saw today, which was a guy kept on being approached by something that was so clearly an AI telephone scammer. So he switched his camera on and there's this guy going, "Hi, we'd like to get you a refund if you've been missold things like this, that, and the other." And he goes, "Am I actually speaking to a real person?" And this clearly AI bot went, "Sure, my name's Mark. I'm based out of Manchester." And he goes, "Right, Mark, so could you tell me the recipe to spaghetti bolognese?" At which point this AI scammer goes, "Sure, yeah, I can tell you the recipe for spaghetti bolognese. You take half a pound of mince," and there we go. So that made me laugh. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining. Thank you all so much for watching to the end. Just a little reminder that we've got a challenge on at the moment of copy the fucking temp, excuse the French, which is the worst temp imaginable, Solaris. Getting a glass beaker and seeing if you can do something similar to Solaris without getting in trouble with Cliff Martinez. The whole point of these challenges is to give you a real world example of these kind of things that you will face in your career as you move through it. You won't actually get in trouble with Cliff Martinez because you are not monetizing it. It's just for practice, for the challenge and the opportunity to win some Crow Hill prizes. So if you haven't checked that out, that's if you go to thecrowhillcompany.com and click on the hub, you will find challenges there, and it's got all sorts of swearing. Copy the fucking temp. Anyway, lots of love to you all. And I'll have a little think about what the workshop should be next week. But maybe you could think in the interim and either comment in the comments down below or join us next week what Philip and I could get up to. Philip is a very, very incredibly progressive cellist, I would refer to him, as well as being a brilliant cellist. Lovely to see you, Philip. See you when you're back in town. And see you all next week. Same time, 7 p.m. on this YouTube channel. Lots of love. Bye.
If you feel like you are losing a grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip.